a science that says there are two minds that are operating at the same time. One is called the conscious mind and one is called the subconscious mind. I say, what's the difference? The conscious mind is where you are as a spirit, an entity, a unique identity. You are in that conscious mind and perceiving the world. I say, what about the subconscious mind? It's not a creative mind. The subconscious mind is habits, things that you've learned and you experienced in your life, and they become habits. So the subconscious mind is not thinking, creating. The subconscious mind, push the button, play the behavior.
If beliefs are subconscious states of being, and you're stringing beliefs together, then most people are viewing their life through the lens of the past, unconsciously. And they are filling in reality. They're seeing reality. They're filling it in from their past memory.
My behavior, whatever I'm doing, is nothing but an expression of what's going on inside. Now, here's the paradox. I can be thinking something very positive. I can see something good happen, but I'm getting bad results. I see myself earning more money, but I'm going deeper in debt. I study the material, but it doesn't happen. And what happens then? I start to think there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you, but your subconscious mind has been programmed. You'll see, that's called a paradigm.
Your concept of yourself is everything that you believe to be true about yourself and what's possible for you and anyone else. And it really means changing most of that, because you have been raised to be ordinary. You've been raised to believe in your limits and how far you can go. And you've have this imposed upon you by your well-meaning parents and grandparents and culture and religion and business and education. The systems that you have been immersed into have basically told you, get here. This is not for you.
If you want something you haven't got, you got to create a space for it. If it's in your own mind, you've got to let go of something. So what do we want to do to let go of? We want to let go of the image we've got for the one we're going to build.
So there's a negative thing about that and a positive thing. The negative is, if you keep obsessing about negative things, your mind will be automatically conditioned to bring it up more and more and more often without your control, just automatically. The positive aspect is we can use that same skill set and that same rule to apply positive thoughts into our own life. We can give positive thinking, positive questions, positive approaches to life a lot of importance in our life and a lot of focus on them and give a lot of duration to them over a period of time, and they get sealed in the brain as well. And now the brain says, well, that's easy, automatically thinks about it.
If you want to have something show up in your life, the kind of person you would like to become, manifest something new into your life, something powerful, whatever it might be, you obviously must first be able to imagine it. Your imagination is able to do all that you ask in proportion to the degree of your attention. So, what kind of attention do you place on your desires?
If you interview successful people, it's a very interesting thing. If you interview successful people and you ask them on a regular basis, what do you think about? What are you thinking about now? You find that successful people are always thinking constructive, positive, creative thoughts that help them to be more successful. And if you interview negative people who aren't doing very much with their lives, you ask them what are they thinking about? They're always thinking about negative, hurtful, destructive, angry, resentful, worried thoughts. And surprise, surprise, the more they think about them and worry about them, the more they draw them into their lives. Be careful. Your mind is very, very powerful.
The opposite of self-confidence is where we are limiting ourselves. That's where we're in doubt. You know, when we're not confident, we are doubting ourselves or doubting our knowledge, doubting our skills, doubting our own abilities. Maybe we're even doubting our own self-worth. The opposite of confidence might be not just doubt, but fear. And how does that show up? We might be painfully shy, like I was. We might, turn down opportunity. We might not take risks. We might be so fearful of taking on new projects, to learn something, to do something, to be, do, have, share in a way, because we're afraid of making mistakes, right? If we don't have confidence, we're not going to take on things and make mistakes. And from that, we're not going to learn anything. And I really do believe that, there's this quote that I have on my desk that says that if failure is not an option, then neither is success.
A positive mental attitude is a generally constructive response to the stresses that face the average person every single day. A positive attitude is where you feel that you have the ability to control your world and to control your life. A positive attitude is like a chicken and egg thing. If you're successful, you're positive. If you're positive, you're successful. Which comes first? It doesn't really matter, but we know this, is that positive thinkers are men and women who accomplish an awful lot more than people who have negative mental attitudes. In fact, we've come to the conclusion that positive thinking is really mental health, and negative thinking is really mental illness. Now, if you look at the spectrum of people from the unhealthiest to the healthiest mentally, you'll find that at the very top, you have the happiest people with the highest self-esteem who are the most positive and outgoing. At the very bottom, you have the most negative and pessimistic people who often require drugs and hospitalization. And your job is to develop a positive mental attitude. Your job is to become thoroughly positive and constructive towards yourself and your possibilities and the world around you and the people in your life.
When you begin to marry a clear intention of your future with an elevated emotion, and the emotion that you're creating that future with is greater than the shock or the betrayal of the past, the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you pay attention to whatever you're imagining. And now you're beginning to condition your brain and body into the future. And the stronger the emotion, it's no longer the environment that signals the gene. The end product from the experience in the environment is the emotion. And you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And you're beginning to change before your wealth comes. You're creating wealth. You're not waiting for your healing to feel gratitude. You're creating health by changing yourself and becoming it.
So whatever impact or success or reaching goals or growth or whatever you say on one level in the physical world, it's about how well you harness your physiological and your psychological processes, isn't it? Whether your body and mind work against you or work for you, this is a big difference. So there is enough evidence to show only when you're in pleasant levels of experience, this happens best. So obviously joy is first. Then growth if you're joyful constantly and you have no fear of suffering because you understand all human experience comes from within you. And so you have managed to create the kind of experience that you want. Now, growth is possible unbridled if you have the fear of falling down and suffering. You will not go very high, isn't it? First of all, people are assuming that anger is happening to them. No, this is exactly what I said earlier. Maybe I didn't articulate it fully. No, you are creating anger, you're creating misery. You're creating misery, you're creating whatever. All this is happening from within you. But human experience is happening from within us, isn't it? Whether it's love or hate or anger or misery or joy or anything, it's only happening from within us. Now, the simple question I am asking is, what happens from within you? Should it happen your way or somebody else's way? Because the world will never happen your way 100%. Because there are so many stakeholders in the world, a little bit will happen my way, a little bit your way. That is fine. But what happens within me must happen my way. If what happens within me does not happen my way, this is the worst form of slavery, isn't it? Wow. Somebody decides what happens within me. Somebody decides where I should sit. This is slavery. Everybody understands this. Now somebody decides whether I'm happy or unhappy, Isn't this the worst form of slavery? So, this is the liberation that humanity needs to work at. This is what inner engineering means. Inner engineering is not some mechanical process. Because engineering means this essentially, you will say something as well. Engineered only if it works the way you want, isn't it? If this one doesn't work the way you want, what the hell are you expecting other things to work the way you want? When you live accidentally, anxiety is normal.
One time, the late Dr. Maxwell Maltz, whom we called Uncle Max, dropped by my office for a chat and lunch. We got to talking on his favorite subject, namely how a person can come to grips with himself, develop a healthy self-image, and find freedom in the world. He told me he had discovered 4 important steps a person can take on a regular basis to form the new habits that can build a healthy, new self-image. And as he talked at lunch, I made notes on a scrap of paper. Here are his 4 points in the order in which he gave them to me. Number 1, forgive others with no strings attached. You must clean the slate absolutely. Forgive every person against whom you might hold some kind of grudge. Clean the slate. You do this for your own sake, your own peace of mind. We don't hurt others when we hold hatred toward them. We hurt ourselves, seriously. It can lead to serious illness. So number 1, forgive others, all others. If you cannot take this first step, you can forget the rest. You haven't grown up yet. 2, forgive yourself. See yourself with kind eyes. Try to forget completely all the idiotic things you've done, the pain you've given to others, the embarrassments you've suffered, the mistakes you've made in the past. Forgive yourself. Wipe clean the slate. Look in the mirror, he said, and forgive yourself. Practice this and you can actually pull it off. Now, it's not easy to forgive ourselves. We tend to be much tougher on ourselves than we are on others. But the fact is, blame doesn't help. It's a destructive emotion. See yourself with kind eyes. That's number 2. Number 3, see yourself at your best. As Dr. Maltz put it, we can start the day in frustration or confidence. Take your pick. Now, the intelligent thing to do is to pick confidence, if it's at all possible. There are bad days, but it's better to begin the day in a confident mood than in a mood of frustration. And number 4, keep up with yourself. Don't worry about what others are doing or what others have done or have. Keep your pace. It's different from the pace of others. It's faster than some. It's slower than others. Forget the Joneses, and don't feel guilty about moving ahead of some of your contemporaries. The person who deliberately holds himself down to a slower pace just to be one of the gang is a fool. Keep up with yourself. Live the life you want to live. Earn what you want to earn in serving others, and do what you want to do. Live your own life, and don't be too concerned about how others are living theirs. We become what we think about most of the time, and that's the strangest secret. This is why thinking is so vital. This is why a goal is so important, because we will become that. This is why people who set goals achieve them. The trouble with men is not in achieving their goals. They do that. It's in establishing them. We must love them. We must help them. We must serve them, because our whole success will depend on our ability to do these things, but never lose our own individuality and our identity by permitting ourselves to become submerged in what has historically proved itself to be a little more than a suffocating sea of indirection and purposelessness. If we want to emulate someone, fine, but let's be choosy in whose steps we follow. It's the only life we've got, and remember to think imagination is everything, and we can become what we can imagine. If you find yourself getting to. And down at the mouth, as we all get once in a while, you might want to remember this quotation by Dean Briggs. He said, "Do your work, not just your work and no more, but a little more for the lavishing sake. That little more, which is worth all the rest. And if you suffer as you must, and if you doubt as you must, and if you doubt as you must do your work." In an age when we've come to nearly defy leisure time, we've almost lost sight of the fact that virtually all our satisfactions and rewards will come not from our leisure, but from our work. And don't forget the strangest secret. Become what we think about.